Hello everybody, it's Andy here from A Media Games. Now this is a continuation from part 1, so this will be part 2. In the first video we went over how to create this low poly, simple, easy to make coffee takeaway cup like you get in a Costa or a Starbucks, as I said in the last video, or whatever kind of coffee shop you have in the country that you're from. So in this video we're going to quickly recap on the UVs just to make sure they're either similar, the same, or as close as possible to what I've got. And then we're going to export our model into Substance Painter. Now, Substance Painter is a paid software, and how it works is you pay a fixed sum and you'll get updates for that year. So if you buy the 2025 version, you'll get updates until the end of 2025, but then you'll be able to keep the software indefinitely, but you'll have to buy the new version 2026 to receive any of the updates that comes to the software after 2025, if that makes sense. So you keep it for life, but you only get updates for that period or that year. So what we're going to do is we're going to export this. We're just going to check our UVs. So if you remember from the last video, we had this decent topology coffee takeaway cup, and we added our seams, which is the red line. And we're going to export this. So we're going to select our model, export, FBX, and go to FBX. Excuse me one second. Okay, so make sure if you have your model selected, you're going to click on selected objects, give it a name, and then export the cup. Once we've done that, we can go to Substance Painter, go to File, New. You can import it as a 2K or a 4K, completely your choice. And we're going to go to Select. I'm going to click on our coffee cup. I'm going to click Open. Make sure that we set normal map format to OpenGL. Make sure nothing else is ticked on. And then what we're going to do then is click OK. And you'll notice that we'll get our coffee cup, but we have reversed normals. I'm kind of glad this has happened, because if you do export your model without checking the normals, then you're going to end up with this kind of issue in Substance. All that means is in Blender, these faces here will be red when we check the orientation. So when we click up the top here and go to face orientation, we'll see that this section of the model is inverted. It should be blue, which means this is the forward direction of the normal face, but it's currently red. So you can select your model, press Tab, press A, and then if you go up to Mesh, go to Normals, and then just click on Recalculate Outside, that should fix the problem. And then we go to File, Export, Selected, keep the same name, and it will overwrite it. File, New, select the coffee cup, and then click OK. Discard the old one, and then we end up with a fixed one. Okay, so we have our coffee cup here, and we can see through this bottom section. That's just because the lid has no thickness to it. So we're only getting excuse me one sec. We're only getting the light on one side, and on the other side it would be red. I'll show you in Blender. So if you zoom in, this is all we're seeing here is the back side of the normal face. Okay, now on the right side you have your layers, and then underneath you have the properties based on those layers. So we can delete this base layer, this default one, and we can expand our menu. So we have textures and materials here. You've got your smart materials, which come pre-built into the software, which are here. You got your smart masks, which is usually like a grunge layer, This is good for when you want to add like edge wear or surface rust, dust, dirt, debris, cavity dirt, stuff like that. So you can use these as well. And to the next one to look across, you've got your generators, and these generators again will be used for things like edge, dirt, etc. These are also filters. I'll show you those in a second. And then we have our paintbrushes here, all the different types of paintbrushes. You've even got zips as well if you're making clothes or bags. And then you've got your alphas, which is kind of like stamps for adding stamp detail. You can even use font, so you can write on your object. And then you've got here, these are all your grunge layers. This is when, if you want to add in some custom grunge or a texture to your cup, etc. And over here you've got your HDRIs. So the first thing you want to do when you open Substance and import your model is you want to click on this croissant up at the top where it says baking. So this little picture here is your baking tab, and this is where you're going to bake in your maps. So you've got your thickness, position, curvature, ambient occlusion, your ID. Now the ID one is, I'll put a link in the description, but your ID one is if you are using ID color maps from Blender or any other 3D software that you've created your object in. You've got your world space normal and your normals. So we're going to go and click on anti-aliasing. Make sure you're on common settings. Set this to 16. Keep it at 2K and then just click bake. The better your UV unwrap in Blender, the quicker your bake will be in Substance. Once you've done that, you're going to click on return to painting. And in your scene here, you'll have your cup, but you'll notice it's now a slight different kind of shade of white, and it's also now got slight darkness. This is your ambient occlusion map. If we go to our globe, which is at the top right here, which is our global settings or shader settings, we've got ambient occlusion intensity. If we drag this bar all the way across, you'll notice that the areas where the light isn't hitting become darker, gives you more of a better representation of how it would look once you've finished texturing it. We're also going to go to our specular quality. Now, to get it as close to Unreal Engine as you can, you want to set this to around very high, and you'll see that the specular detailing for the light is much clearer. So if we go to low, you can see here it's very dull. You set this to very high, we get a better look overall. Now we can also change our HDRI, our environment map, which are these ones. So we go to panorama. I usually use this second row end on the right one. Just so it gives us a better lighting so we can see our model for creating textures. So I hope that's kind of helped with the layout, giving you a bit of an idea of kind of how to maneuver yourself around in Substance Painter. So the first thing we're going to do is get used to this panel on the right hand side. Now, I'm not a professional by any means. Everything's self-taught, so you know, if you're going to troll me in the comments, that's fine. I'm only just trying to help people learn. I've learned myself, I'm passing on the knowledge, and that's all I'm doing. So if I make mistakes, I'm human. So on the right hand side here, we can add in a fill by clicking this paint bucket, and this is going to enable us to color this object in whatever color we want. So we can have absolutely any color we like, we can change it, and this again can be interacted with. We can change and add details and textures to this fill layer. So let's change this back to default, Control Z, and we want to control where we place are, I'm trying to think of what they call it on the actual cup. So it's kind of, they have this, on this section of the cup, they have this like grip, like a heat shield, isn't it? To protect your hands from being burnt from the hot contents inside the cup. So we want to simulate that, but the problem is, by using a fill layer, we're going to affect the entire cup rather than specifically this section here. So if I show you in Blender, if we switch over to Blender and go to edit mode, we want to influence this ring of faces here, but we don't want to impact the lid or the bottom section of the cup itself. So in Substance Painter, what you can do is you can use a mask. So if we add another fill layer on top of this fill layer, so now we've got two. This one will override this this one here. So if I change this one to like a salmony pink, you notice nothing happens because this one is at the top of the stack. So if you're used to using Photoshop, you'll know how this works. It's exactly the same process. If we disable this fill layer, we can see the color underneath. So what we're going to do is, let's set this back to like a grey. That'll do. What we're going to do is we're going to create a mask, and then we're going to isolate this middle section of our cup. So we're going to click on here where it says add mask. We're going to add a black mask. The difference between a white mask and a black mask is when you add a black mask, you're selecting the area that you want to be affected, but when you use a white mask, you're selecting the area that you don't want to be affected. So they're just reversed. So if you were to add a white mask, all of this would already be pre-selected, so you'd just be reversing the selection. If you add a black mask, all of it's not selected, so then you're selecting the area that you want affected by it. So we're going to group these up, and the reason we're going to group them up is because when we add the detail into, once we start adding this detail in for this section here, if we don't group these and then mask them, it'll impact everywhere else as well. So we're going to add a fill layer to this, right click, add a fill, and then we're going to click where it says grayscale, and we're going to go and type in stripes, and we're going to select our stripes. Now we can't see anything because these two are practically the same color, but if you look very closely, you can just about make out some stripes forming on the surface, like so. But these obviously are very similar colors, so we need to change that, and we can see here that we get this issue. Now, exactly what I spoke about before, it's impacting everywhere on the cup, not just this middle section. Now to fix that, what we can do is we select both layers, and then we can press Control and G, and this will create a folder, and then we can isolate this folder. So this is going to be our cup texture middle section, so we know what it is, and then we can right click and we can add a mask. So now this completely takes it away from all of the cup, and then if we go over to the far left of our screen to polygon fill, and then we leave it on the square which is selected faces, if we then click here and drag, it'll impact only the middle section but nowhere else. So now we have this cool striped effect, but we'll also notice that it's not quite centered correctly. It's a little bit off. So we can adjust our stripe settings. So you click on the folder, go to fill layer 2, which is going to be our stripes. Fill layer 1 is our base color. Oops, that's not how you spell color. There we go. Okay, so now we've got this set up, we can then alter and change our texture, our grip part of the cup. Bear with me, I can't remember what it's called. It's like the sleeve, isn't it? So our grip part of the cup, and then we're going to go to stripes, and we can see here that we can affect how it's slightly blurry, but we can affect our positioning of those stripes and how kind of the contrasty they are. We can also impact that here, and then our pattern, we can, if you click on it properly, we can increase the amount of stripes that we have on our cup, like so. Now, this is a cylinder, so in order to get these to wrap around perfectly, we can change our projection from UV to a cylindrical projection, and this will give us way more control over the stripes and the position on the cup, and how more accurate to the kind of real world look that it would be. So if we go down to our rotation, we can change the rotation just like so. If you hold shift, you can get more of a kind of a slower adjustment on the dial here, and we can increase. Let's go to our stripes and we can increase our amount. Hold shift, and then we're going to go back to our rotation. I'm going to bring that down a little bit. We kind of want it to be slightly slanted, like so. We can increase or decrease the width. So let's decrease the width and then increase the amount of stripes. Let's do it a little bit more. There we go. And then we'll go back to our rotation. I'll try and do this slowly so you can follow along. It doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be the same as mine. But now we have the first part of our cup kind of done. We just need to adjust and play around with the colors. So what you can do now is if you click on this part here, which is our main fill layer, this is our mask, and this is our main fill, we can adjust the color of these stripes. As you can see here, we can have something that looks like it belongs at a circus, or we can kind of go for maybe like a wood kind of effect, like a light brown. And then if we change our base color, which would be the part in between these stripes, you can change that as well. So it depends again on the look that you're going for. Now what we can do to give this more of a depth, to instead of adding more geometry in Blender and giving it more surfaces to work with, which again isn't always going to be adaptable to all game engines, what we can do in here, we can use a fake kind of displacement which uses the normal map, and we can do that by going into this fill layer, our light brown color, scroll down until you see height, and then if you click on this slider and drag it to the left and pay close attention to the center, we can get like an indent kind of look on our cup. So you don't want to go too far because it'll start looking a bit weird, but if you kind of just bring it in a little bit, and if you hold shift and right click, you can drag the light around and you'll see the effect that it gives you, this kind of fake depth look. So that's one way of doing it. And we can then, let's see if we can maybe do something like that. Okay, so now that we have that part done, we can do the same again. So we can do add fill layer. We could do that twice. Excuse me. And then we need to do the same as what we did before, because if you notice, it's now impacting our entire model, but we don't want the fill layers to impact the stripes that we've already created. So how do we fix that problem? We do exactly the same. We select both of these, Control G to create a folder, and then this is going to be our cup lid texture. And then all we do then is add a black mask to this, to the folder, not the fill. Right click, black mask, and then in here we don't want to do it this way because we'll probably end up overlapping this. So what we can do is if we click on this big square, Now, because these aren't technically attached, and these are separate meshes, but they're joined, what you can do is let's create this into like a pink color again. If we click on this now, make sure we're on our mask, make sure we're on our selection for our UV, and then we're going to left click. It'll isolate that top piece, making it easier for us to select. And what we can do now is we can draw on this. So let's add another layer. We'll call this one, in fact we'll do black mask, and then we'll add a paint layer, and we will get rid of let's get rid of our color, and we'll do height. We'll do about let's do minus 0.1. And the reason we're doing that is because we're going to draw on top of this. We're going to write some things on top, like the recycle symbol, caution hot, etc. We can change our base color so we can have that more white, a little bit more dark gray. So we'll go over a slightly darker gray. We also want to select this bottom part, so we can click on our mask, and then what we can do very carefully is we can select this bottom part, but make sure we're in, again, face selection, and just like so, make sure you haven't grabbed anything else, that's fine. And then in here we're going to click on our fill layer 2. This is going to be our writing, and this is going to be our base color. So we're going to click paint, we're going to go to top down view. 1 second. Excuse me. Just have to mute it while I cough. It makes it a lot easier to edit. And then we're going to go and draw our symbol. So let's just see if we have a recycle symbol somewhere. We're going to make sure we come out of this mode into our paintbrush mode. And we're going to click on alphas. And we can see here somewhere we should have a recycle symbol somewhere down here. Let's see if we can find it. See if you can spot it before me. Let's have a look. There we go. So we have two variations, but we're going to go with this one. So we have a recycle symbol, and we can place that right in the middle of our cut, which is going to be roughly around here. And we can see now we have that really cool fake depth using our normal map or our height layer. And that's because in here we set this to minus 0.1. We could go further, but we're just going to leave it as was. So it's got this nice recycle sign in the center. We're also going to add some writing in. So let's go back to our paintbrushes. Sorry, this one here, which is the one that we're already on, our alphas. And we're going to type font in the search bar, and we're going to scroll up until we see these ones, not these ones. So these are our fonts that we want to use. I'm going to select, let's say, you can use any of these that you like. I'm just going to pick this one. I'm going to scroll down until I see my text parameters. I'm going to change this to bold. I'm going to change this to caution. Oops. Caution. Hot contents. Oh, I'll just say caution hot. And if we zoom in, let's go top down view. Let's maybe add that here. And we can see there we have caution hot on the top. And now we want to add in our drink spot here on the model. And also that little tiny hole, which I believe is to reduce pressure when you're drinking the juice. So it doesn't kind of suck the lid in when you're sipping your drink. Now to do that, we're going to add another layer on top of this. So we're going to go fill, mask, right click, paint. This is going to be our black texture for holes. Oops. Let's just fix that. Black texture for holes. And we're going to set this to black. We're going to set the roughness all the way up. Excuse me. And we're going to set the height to -0.2. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put a little tiny hole here, and then we're going to put a little drinking spot here, just like you get in a normal cup. So we're going to change over to our brushes, make sure we get rid of our filter, click brushes, go with basic hard on here. And then if you paint with this now, you can see that we get the effect that it's cut into the cup, which is kind of what we want, right? So this is just, instead of adding more geometry to our mesh, which is unnecessary, because it's such a small object, you probably wouldn't even notice. So we're going to add a small hole here, and then, oops, press the wrong key, small hole here, and then we're going to make this slightly bigger, and we can go in here. That's probably a bit too long, that one. About here maybe. Something like this. I think that looks perfectly fine. If you're happy with that and you're happy with your cup, that is some of the basics in Substance Painter. So any questions, again, leave them in the comments. If you subscribe over on YouTube, feel free to join me on Discord. I'd be happy to go over things one-to-one over a voice call or anything like that. But obviously, as long as you've at least tried to subscribe to the channel, I can't just do it for everybody. It's free anyway, right? But yeah, I hope this helps some people learn, especially when you're starting off on Substance Painter. I will do some more advanced and intermediate kind of content as well, but I will be releasing more beginner tutorials, trying to get people into the software, how to use it, how to set things up. But yeah, for now, hope this helps, and again, any questions, please do ask. But I'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Bye bye for now. Thanks for watching.